Okay, guys. So we have now mentioned like the exemption amounts as of now. Now moving further, the gross salary was not mentioned by me.
This recording
Mhm.
is on. Okay, okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So gross salary amount was not feeded by me. So I'll be going with that. Uh, this edit button gives you the liberty. So the gross salary, as per section 71, 17 subsection 1, subsection 2, subsection 3, these are the three categories which basically falls under the scope of gross salary. The first is the salary. The other one is the perquisites. The third one is the profit in lieu of salary. So people like me who are very freshers, like who have started the journey as of now, the friend of mine or Aman, we don't get any share in the profits. So definitely this is not something which is applicable to us. From perquisites perspective, also we get very limited perquisites, hardly any perquisites. So whatever is there, it is get that is basically gets charged and text basically. But most of the time you'll find that there is no perquisites altogether. So what I'll do basis that number of what was the salary for my friend? I'll keep it over here. So the total salary, which was on an annual basis, was coming out to be 14 lakh 16,681. Okay, guys, I'll put this number over here. 14 lakh 16,681. Okay, so this was the amount. Now, hmm, standard deduction and all that will definitely come on its own. It should come. Look, now what happened after updating that? Total is a little slow actually. Hmm. So we have given the gross salary amount as of now. Exemptions, we have given the HRA exemption which was there. Other than that, no exemption was there in my friend's profile. So I haven't kept, even HRA was not there. Just I have kept like this. The deduction under section 816, that is standard deduction, which I was talking about. Like there is nothing to do with what amount of expenditure you have done. All of us, whosoever is getting the income tax, basically their salary getting taxed, are eligible to claim exemption under section 16, a standard deduction of 15,000. So this is what the breakup is coming. His income under the salary head is coming out to be 12 lakhs 46,681. That is the income which is coming over there for taxation. Okay. Moving further, as we saw that income from house property is allowed only when you are having one house property. That is all that then only you are eligible for Sahaj. If you are having more than one property, then you are not eligible. In my case, I don't have any house property, but for making you guys aware and explore, let's get into this. Let's see. Let's add the details. It is asking type of house property. So I am saying, what should I keep? Guys, tell me. Basis your whatsoever questions are being asked you, what should I keep? Like self-occupied, let out, deemed let out. Are you guys aware of these three terminologies? What is self-occupied, let out, and deemed let out?
Yes, yes, sir.
Can you just please explain, Vinay?
If the house property is being let out to some another person, from
Hmm.
that rent will be received, na?
Mm-hmm.
Means agreement will be there,
Mm-hmm.
and from uh, that will be taxable under head house property.
Okay, good. Now tell me, Vinay, how let out and deemed let out are different.
Deemed let out, like if the person is having, if that individual is having three house property
Hmm.
that are self-occupied, then he can claim only two as self-occupied property, and another uh, means more than two will that will be deemed let out property.
Exactly. Even if the same are not let out to any outside party, then also government says you are having multiple houses with you. Earlier, only one house was allowed, but recently the government has added one more house, considering the standard of living which is increasing in India. So they have said, like, if you are having two houses, we are fine with it. You can show that under self-occupied, and in that case, in case of self-occupied, obviously I don't be having any income from house property, so nothing will be taxed. Whereas in case of let out, I am entering into an agreement with the third party, basically the tenant, that I am giving you the space, you have to pay me the rent, and that's very much fine. But deemed let out is something when you have multiple houses that is exceeding two, then houses more than two, whatever house is there. Say for example, if I'm having four houses, then income from two houses, even though those are not let out, still government is saying they'll be assuming that those are let out. That is why they use the word deemed let out. So if I'm having 4 houses, 2 are self-occupied, definitely good. If 2 are also, I'm saying no, those are also self-occupied. I haven't put it on rentals. So then also the government says no, we'll be assuming that your 2 of your houses are let out, and basis the municipal rate and all those things which is there, the gross GV or something like that. So basis that they'll be computing the value of your rentals, and accordingly the income will get charged. So this is the concept of deemed let out. Okay, guys. Anyone having any doubt on these three? So what will happen if in most of the cases, you will find the case of self-occupied or let out. Deemed let out is definitely very in limited cases. Now it is saying
I
because
have a
yeah.
question. I just want to recall. In case of deemed let out, what is
Mhm,
the GAV? Because in case of self-occupied, the GAV and NAV is zero.
mhm,
So in case of deemed let out, can you
mhm.
please tell me what is the GAV? What we take GAV as?
Roshni, that is based
Basically,
on the fair market
hmm,
value and the
Fair
municipal
market
tax
value.
no,
rates
no, no.
which is there. So,
Stand.
There will be 3 cases, na,
ha,
which will
three.
be more beneficial to assessee. That will be his income from that house property.
Sorry, Vinay, what you said?
Uh, in that case, like जिसमें मतलब 3 हाउस प्रॉपर्टी होंगी उसमें मतलब केसेस इंक बनेंगे ना मतलब
केसेस 3, हाँ वो एक अलग चीज है एक्चुअली. यू आर
मतलब
सेइंग कि मैं कौन सा 2 ऑक्यूपाइड बनाऊंगा और कौन सा लेट आउट
हाँ
बनाऊंगा. दैट्स अ डिफरेंट
यस
थिंग.
यस
शी इज आस्किंग लाइक व्हाट इज द हाउ द जीवीए थिंग इज कंप्यूटेड एंड हाउ द एमवीए थिंग इज कंप्यूटेड. सो दैट इज
मार्केट
कंप्यूट.
वैल्यू एंड फेयर रेंट
Yeah, fair rent or the municipal
मार्केट
circle rates and all those. There are 3 criteria. I'm not recalling all of those. So Roshni, you can Google it out basically. So what happens is in whatever locality your house is, that location has certain rental values in place that will be basis the fair value that will form part of the fair value. Say for example, if you are having any house of yours in a very posh locality, definitely the fair value of rental of the fair value of the rental of that property will be very much higher. So basis the nearby houses which are located to your house, the rental is computed. Then the other criteria is the municipal circle rate basis which the rent is computed. Then there is actual rent, and the highest of these three is something which is basically forms part of the GVA. That is how you compute. So in case of deemed let out, obviously you won't be having rent received. So you will be having 2 criteria: the municipal circle rate or the other is the fair value. So higher of these two will form part of your GBA thing. So you can simply refer section 24 and there you will find it. Okay. Just from an overview perspective, this is the how the same is computed. That is assumed basically that you are letting it out, and accordingly the fair value thing comes into the picture. Okay. So in case of self-occupied, obviously my income from the house property will be zero, as Roshni also mentioned. Like the NVA and the GVA thing is something which is zero. Then I am eligible to claim the interest payable on borrowed capital. So whosoever has taken home loan and has paid interest on that, even though that property is self-occupied, you can claim the interest component for sure, and up till 2 lakh rupees of the amount you can claim. So this is how you can basically compute. Know your interest payable. The total interest paid during the year is this. So basis this, I can compute mention my interest over here. Maximum 2 lakh rupees is allowed. So I can put any number you can think of, 50,000 rupees or so. So that is how you can basically mention over here. Earlier an unrealized rent received during the year less 30%. This is something which comes into the picture the moment you have, say for example, in the past you have let out the property but you haven't received the rent. So obviously when you have not received the rent, you are not you don't want your income to be get taxed. So government what government does is they defer the income to the year when it will get received. So it is saying that any arrear rent or unrealized rent which you have received now, deduct 30% from it and put the amount over here for basically getting the charge over here. So this is how the thing is. So basically this is how you have to move on. If say for example, if I put something like 30,000 or something, so you can see the income from house property, the benefit of 50,000 is getting reduced by 30,000 because this is something which I have received this year. This will get taxed in this year. So that is how the income basically this is getting offsetted by my interest component. So now basis this, the net income chargeable under head of house property is minus 20,000 for me. This is the assumed number which I am using over here. Had it been the case of deemed let out, let's see, Roshni, if system is doing something over here or not. Yep. Gross rent received, receivable, lettable value during the year. Now, this is something that we were discussing about. Like you have to take into the picture the fair value, the circle rates, the basically the municipality rates which is there, and the rent receipt. Obviously, rent receipt is not there, so basically that will fall under the lettable value during the year. Okay, so you have to mention the lettable value. Had it been the case the same was let out, what should have been the amount of rental which you must have earned? That will come over here, and the taxes paid to local authorities. All these things are covered under section 24, which you guys must be aware of. So if you have paid any taxes to the local authority, so the property tax is there on the property, any municipality tax you have paid, you may deduct that amount from the rental income. Then basis that your annual income will come. Now what happens? Government says if you are earning rental incomes, definitely you must be incurring some amount on the repair and maintenance, or might be the case in the future you must be investing some amount on the repair and maintenance. That is why what the government does is government allow 30% amount as deduction. They say if you are even if you are getting rentals, then also 30% is the amount which we are assuming that on the repair and maintenance of the property you must be spending. So that is why 30% amount is allowed as a standard deduction over here. Then interest payable on borrowed capital, again as we saw in this case, in case of rent out property, you are allowed to claim deduction interest, the actual interest, even if it is exceeding 2 lakhs, you are allowed to claim that deduction also. But in case of self occupied, the maximum threshold is of rupees 2 lakh, whereas in case if you have let it out and there is any income which is getting charged with the income from house property, you are allowed to claim the actual interest paid during the year. Okay guys, and again, the same thing, unrealized or arrear rent, if you have received any of those in the current year, that you are allowed over here. Okay. Anyone having any doubt over here? Same will the case for let out also, because nothing will change. All those things will remain same. That is your rent received, taxes, and all this, interest on borrowed capital. So all those things will remain same over here. There won't be any change. Okay, guys. So this is how your income from house property will be there. Moving further, as in my case, I'm assuming that there was no income from house property, and I'm just assuming the income from this. Income from other sources. As we were discussing earlier, that every one of us receive interest in our bank accounts, be it saving account or FDs or any other such term deposits, we do get interest. That interest is something which we have to show under the income from other sources. So, say for example, now the questionnaire comes up. This is a very good functionality which they have introduced. For everything, they have put some questionnaires, and basis those questions, they give you the specific thing. They are saying, do you have any interest income from the saving bank accounts in India? If yes, I'll put yes. Then it will ask the amount. Can anyone tell me, is there any deduction allowed for the interest income from the saving bank account?
80 TTA,
Exactly. And what's the threshold?
10,000.
Yes. So say for example, in current year, if I have received 5,000 as interest from the saving bank account, 5,000 of whole of it will get is eligible for deduction under section 80 TTA. Whereas if I'm earning more than 10,000, maximum 10,000 is allowed as a deduction. Okay, guys. Then it is asking, do you have any interest income from deposits in the bank, post office? Now it is not limiting the scope to the saving bank account. Earlier, the scope was limited to saving bank account because section 80 TTA talks about saving bank account interest only. Whereas if I am having any term deposit with the bank, that will get captured over here. Okay, guys. Then cooperative in India and the enhanced compensation thing, which we have already discussed. Do you have any income from family pension? So if you have, you may enter the amount over here. Do you have any interest income on income tax refund? You can mention any other income which you believe is not falling under the income of head from salary, capital gains, then your salary, capital gains, house property. And so basically, if any residual income is there, that will fall under the other income category for sure. So this is how basically your other income will get captured over here. So whenever you will be saying yes or no, basis that this will the amount will get captured, and accordingly that will flow over there. So say for example, if I put over here like 5,000 rupees, say for example, and I'll continue. It's 2. Even the functionality allows you to just skip questions and manually enter the numbers. So that functionality is also available. It's not that you have to answer all the question, then only you can move ahead. Okay, guys. Now my gross total income is being computed because my salary is there, my other income is there, house property I've assumed as 0. So accordingly, my income is coming out to be 12,51,681. Now it is saying exempt income. If you have any exempt income, please add it here. Exempt income, if say for example, agriculture income. If I'm having any agriculture income, I may add over here. If I have some PF withdrawals or say anything which is exempt, if maturity of this insurance policy which is exempt under section 10D and all, so you have to disclose those over here. Okay, so those exempt income you have to mention over here, and accordingly you guys can move ahead. Let's see what all is mentioned over here. Nature of income, as I told you, agriculture income is something which come over here. The other one is any amount from central government, state government by way of compensation on account of any disaster. So say for example, as Yas cyclone has hit recently in basically West of Bengal. So any amount paid by the government on account of to make people resettled again, so that is exempt and that will be shown over there. Then as I mentioned, like insurance policy, if the amount is received under a life insurance policy, then also it is exempt. State statutory provident fund received, which is exempt basically if you have received those. Recognized provident fund received, approved superannuation fund received. So all those things are, whichever income is exempt, you guys can simply select from here and mention the amount. Say for example, if I opt for agriculture income, obviously it will give me the amount thing. If I put 7,000 over there, I think it should disallow. Yes, it is saying as this it was out of the scope. It is saying agriculture income is more than rupees 5,000. Then use ITR 2 or ITR 3 in income tax income details. Okay, had it been the case, if I'm limiting it to say for example 5,000 only, it will allow me to move ahead. There won't be any issue then. Yeah, you can see it is allowing me. So there is no issue with that. So there are checks and controls in the system which will restrict for sure if you are doing anything wrong. So those are the things, and you can mention over here. Accordingly, guys, yeah. Now we can see all the incomes I have mentioned over here. 12,50,000 is the amount which I have mentioned. Moving further, if I confirm, now it is taking me to the this landing page, which was earlier also we visited. Now we have given the personal income, gross total income, total deductions. This is the series of section 80 which comes into the picture and the deduction which I'll be claiming. Now it is asking the questions again. Are you eligible to claim any deduction for donation paid under section 80G? Definitely. Are you eligible to claim any deduction for donation paid for scientific research and rural development? Are you eligible to claim under section 80GG? So you can simply on by clicking I, you can see over here like what is the meaning of this. So if you do not receive any HRA, this is for non-salaried class people. So the people who are not in the who are not getting HRAs, they are also allowed to claim deduction equivalent to HRA thing. So for them, it is section 80GG is introduced. You may claim benefit of rent paid to the landlord. So that is what they are saying. If you are not receiving HRA, because if I am receiving HRA, that is dealt in the income from salary head only. Whereas if I'm not receiving HRA, then I can claim the amount over here. Okay, guys, this is the thing. Then are you eligible to claim deduction in respect of payment made toward life insurance policy premium paid or public PPF or 5 years fixed deposit and all? So refer section 80C. So the benefit of this new website is everywhere they have given the explanations or those all those stuff where you can simply refer the details. So say for example, if I offer yes, now it will ask which category you want to claim deduction into. So it is saying amount to be claimed under section 80C. As we all know, the maximum limit is 1,50,000. We can simply mention over here like 1,50,000 rupees. Let's just put it like this. Are you eligible to claim any deduction under section 80CCD contribution to pension scheme of central government by employer? So the thing is, if these exemptions or these deduction thing you have to mention, like medical insurance premium, if you have paid section 80, यहाँ पे आ जाएगा, then schedule 80D is required to be filled. Because what happens, why there's a separate schedule, There's a criteria related to 60 years age of your spouse, your parents, and yourself. So that is why a separate schedule is is basically made, where you have to provide the details basis which your deduction amount would be computed. Moving further, are you eligible to claim deduction in respect of payment made towards interest on loan taken for higher education, section 80E? Are you eligible to claim any other deduction if you are eligible, like 80C, 80DD, 80DD, 80U? If you are eligible for those deductions, you can basically claim over here. So the list is over here, like 80CCC, payment in respect of pension fund, CCD1 to central pension scheme of central government, CCD1B. So these are the deductions which the whole list is there, like 80DD, 80DDB, all those deductions. If you are having any of those deductions with you, you can simply tick and mention your amount over here. So from generic perspective, one basically very generic deduction which you guys can see in case of Sahaj, if one has taken loan under the affordable housing scheme of government of India's scheme, so that falls under over here section 80 EEA. So the deduction amount or the repayment, the principal repayment, you can claim over here also. You can claim certain amount under 80C and the over and above, because 80C limits the deduction up till 1.5. And if you have repaid the principal amount more than that, you can claim over here. So this is a very generic section which will be which you guys will be finding if the case is where the person for whom you are filing the return has taken the affordable housing scheme home loan and all. So you can claim additional deduction over here. Then we have the electric vehicle. As we all know, the government is promoting this. That is why they're giving deductions. Donation to political party. 80TTA, which was discussed, like if you are having any saving bank account in case of interest from there, you can claim. So I'll be putting yes. And if I see what it is saying, this field should be lower than 10,000 rupees, as we discussed. And as I mentioned in the other income sources, that my interest income is 5,000. I should mention 5,000 only. Had it deduction in the section is more than the deduction detail provided by the employer, please verify. Now it is saying that the employer, which what happens is over here, whatever deduction is coming, they are saying it is higher than the employer. Basically, whatever I have disclosed to my employer, it is higher because for salaried employees, the data is captured from Form 16, and if you are deviating from it, it is a sign basically that something is wrong. It might happen something is wrong, or in most of the time what happens is we don't give such disclosure to the employer that we have interest income also, because the day when we have to disclose it, by that time we ourselves are not into the position to tell what is the amount of exemption which we'll be getting. So the system is giving you the warning. There is nothing it will allow you to continue, but just from the warning perspective, it is giving you the detail. Look, the employer don't know about this deduction of yours and you are putting it over here. So make sure you must be having relevant documentation with you. Okay, if say for example, if I mention over here also, I believe it should throw the error. It is not throwing the error. Not pretty sure why it threw error in that case. It is not throwing error over here, guys. Not pretty sure why so, but for this why TTA specifically to error, I'm not pretty sure. This is something. If you guys have any logic for this, please share. But I don't have any understanding of this. Aman, do you have any like? Are you getting the rationale as to why this only is captured?
I think so. Means 80 means in that section actually no amount was given maybe, and in 80 that medical.
No,
I think so. You have.
We have
you
given, I believe. We have given. And
no 80 TTA you have given anything. You have shown anything in 80 TTA.
Other income we have shown the 5,000 rupees.
No. I am saying that in Form 16 to your employer.
Okay. Obviously, like we don't do that, and no one do that basically.
But medical you might have disclosed something amount, some amount.
No.
Achha, okay.
That is why I'm a bit surprised, like why it is giving error on this only. The error should have been that had it been the case in the other income sources, I have not given any income under the heading of interest income on savings, then it should ideally throw me the error that you have not disclosed income. How can you claim the deduction? That is something which is acceptable to me. But when it gives talks about the employer thing, it should ideally talk on these sections also. Why it is not talking about on these, I'm not pretty sure. Okay, guys. So you guys can simply basically Google it out, or you may do some research as to why this is reflected over here. I'm not getting the rationale of it, because no one discloses this to the employer. No one knows actually the amount of it. And ideally, this should for the other deduction it should talk about, but it is not. So say over here also it is not. Yeah, for this it took. Okay. DDB is more than deduction provided by the employer. So basically now it is saying you have not disclosed this to the employer. And why this is showing, basically this will help the government to make sure to catch those people who, what happens is, whenever I have to whenever I'm disclosing some deduction to my employer, I have to give the certain documentation to them. Okay, so if I'm not giving the appropriate document to them, or I'm not disclosing any deduction to them, and subsequently in the income tax return of mine I'm putting the deductions, because I know it might happen my case is not going into the scrutiny and I might inflate the numbers. To basically capture that data, government has come up with this functionality that it will basically correlate what all deductions you have mentioned to your employer, what you are claiming. If there is any deviation, we do have data with us. Okay, it might happen the system may send notices asking for the supports of the same. So say for example, if I add this of CCD 1B, then they must be asking, show us the document of the NPS investment made by you. So that is the thing. So what happens generally it might happen, and in most of the cases you'll find that deductions which are being disclosed to the employer are lower compared to what we guys put on our ITR, because what happens in most of the companies, the deadline to disclose the investments are somewhere in the January and February, and it might happen after disclosing it to the employer, I may invest further amount. Okay, so the system is allowing you to put those additional amount, but it is giving you a cautious message. Look, this is not available there. So make sure that you do have the documents with you, because in case whatever you have disclosed to the employer, you have shared the document with the employer, so government is bit assured. But wherever you are deviating from the employer side, then it is giving you the cautious message. Okay, that is the thing. But I'm not pretty sure why in ATTD it does not throwing this error. And why in ATTT it is throwing error, that is also a bit surprising to me, because it should ideally do that in other income sources you have not.
So if you have identified a bug, maybe like in 80 TTA, it is showing an error, but not in 80DD, that section, medical.
So-
Sir,
Mhm.
yeah, sir. One way of seeing it, that the ATT deduction is very common.
Mhm. Yes.
So ATT deduction is very common. So any
Yes.
individual is filing his return, so he will claim ATTA obviously.
Yes,
So
definitely.
so yeah, so for saving the software cost or something, he's showing the warning all in ATTA.
Okay, no, the point is, my point is, Aman, over here is that this should not be the ideal error which should be there, is that you have not disclosed the other sources income up on the basically the taxable income area, and you are claiming the deduction. Had it been the case, it should throw the error. Whereas in case of like the employer disclosure, I don't think it should ideally disclose throw the error, because ATTTA is something which no one is aware up till the date when I have to disclose it to my employer. Okay, so ideally it should throw that in the other income sources you have not disclosed the income, how you are claiming the deduction over here. That error should be there, but this error I am not getting the rationale of it. Okay, it's fine, but why the same is not getting over here? It should ideally, but it is not coming over here. Okay, so simply what I can do is I can continue. Okay, if I continue, now the structure of my ITR is almost prepared. Okay, it is saying that total deduction is this much. Total of chapter 6A entered is more than deduction details provided by the employer. Please verify. Again, it is giving me a cautious message that look, whatever deductions you are claiming now, it is more than whatever is disclosed to your employer. So make sure you do have the requisite supports with you. If any whenever they'll put your case in the scrutiny and it will be found that you don't have the requisite supports with you, definitely it will be a trouble for you. So now you can see the details also. So the detail, like the bifurcation of 2,05,000 under which section you have claimed, it is giving a cautious message just for the benefit of the the taxpayer, that make sure you do have the documentation. No fake investment should be claimed over here. That is the intent of the government. Okay, guys. Moving further, if I put on confirm, now you can see gross total income is done, total deduction is done. Now the next part is the tax paid. So if I'll go on tax paid, in tax paid, there are different categories. Details of the tax deducted at source on salary income. So it is saying that your tax deduction, which is there on salary income, is coming out to be zero. Okay. I'm not pretty sure why it is coming out to be zero because I got my TDS deducted. So not pretty sure. Uh, yeah, Form 16 is required. That is why details of TDS deducted by the employer as per Form 16. So as of now, I haven't received my Form 16 for the year. That is why it is coming out to be zero. But I can check in my Form 26 AS. There I must be getting some TDS amount for sure. So that is the thing. The TDS from income from other than the salary. So none of the income which I have disclosed other than the salary was having any TDS requirement because my interest income was hardly 5,000 rupees and there was no requirement for TDS from the bank side. So obviously that will come out to be zero diff for sure. Again, it is saying that Form 16A is required. So as of now, it is coming out to be zero. For me, it will definitely come out to be zero for in future also. But this will get updated once my Form 16 is released by my employer. Then it will get auto-populated over here that look, this much amount of the TDS is being deducted against your salary. Okay. Then detail of tax deducted at source as per Form C 16C furnished by the payer. Now what it is, details of TDS of the income received as a rent from the tenant. So basically, if say for example, there is TDS requirement in case of rent also. So if you are paying rent higher than a certain limit, I'm not getting the number, sorry for that. So if you have paid rent more than a certain limit, if you are paying rent more than a certain limit to your landlord, then you have to deduct a certain amount of it and deposit the same with the government of India. So basically, that if someone has had it been the case, I am the landlord and I have rented out my property to a tenant and they have deducted TDS, that TDS will flow over here. Okay, but for me, it will zero because I have not rented out any property. I'm not earning that much that I can rent out properties and having additional properties as of now. So yeah, that will be zero for me. Okay. Next is TCS. If someone has collected TCS from me, so it might happen this basically what case I should mention. Say for example, if I bought a car amounting more than rupees 10 lakh, then definitely the showroom owner is required to collect TCS from me. So the day when it will come that I'll be buying a car of more than 10 lakh rupees, definitely I'll be paying TCS and that TCS will come over here. Okay, that is the thing. So as of now, no TCS. That you can simply correlate that I don't have any car exceeding rupees 10 lakh rupees. In the current year, I haven't bought. That is the thing, which you can correlate. Aman is laughing a lot. Advanced tax and self-assessment tax paid. Now, these four line items were something where someone else has deducted tax or someone else has collected tax and has deposited against my PAN. Okay. Now, what happens is after all this thing, if say for example some additional income comes to my mind and if I have disclosed those and TDS is not deducted and say for example the TDS deducted is not adequate to cover the tax amount which is there, I need to pay the amount. Okay. Over and above that, that is known as self-assessment tax payment. And advanced tax is there when you have certain requirement where you have to pay advanced tax. If you are basically falling under that category, then you on quarterly basis you have to pay. So whatever tax you yourself have paid, that float over here, and whatever tax is being deducted by someone else on your behalf and deposited by them to government, that will flow over here in these four line items. So as of now, all these is coming out to be zero, but it should ideally auto populates from your Form 26 AS and all those stuff. So once my Form 16, as I mentioned, like once my Form 16 will be there, it will all get auto populated and all. So as of now, it is saying that tax amount is zero. Guys, one thing I would like to highlight over here, what happens is when we guys file ITRs, it happened with me also in the past that most of the time I used to file ITR and as I know, as all of us know, like this TDS and all, it gets auto populated and the self-assessment tax which you pay, what happens, you pay the tax amount, but you forget to mention the detail over here. Okay, and subsequently you receive a notice or asking like your there's an outstanding demand amounting rupees this much, but you come across saying that no we have paid, but what happens is what the challan details are not shared over here. That is why sometimes it happens you get the notices. So make sure whenever you are filing ITR and whenever you are paying tax, because up till now you guys know how much amount of tax is to be paid, so you guys can simply pay the tax and mention the details of tax paid, the challan details over here, and add the details. If you won't do this, definitely after filing of ITR, because ITR will get filed for sure, you'll be receiving a notice which will be showing that there is an outstanding demand amounting rupees this much, which you have to pay. So to avoid that, make sure whenever you are paying any self-assessment tax, you do mention the details over here. Otherwise, definitely there will be issue. Okay, that is the thing which I mentioned. So this has happened to me in past. In some of the cases, it happened that I filed the ITR and I forgot to mention the detail of the self-assessment tax, and subsequently the notice came to the person for whom I filed the return, and then I realized, oh shit, I missed this part. So that is why I'm saying that whenever you file, please mention the details over here, the challan details over here. Okay. So as of now, it is showing 0. So definitely, what will happen? It has not basically restricted me from filing my ITR. Okay. Even if I have not paid any tax, it is still allowing me to move further. Okay, that is why I'm saying. So even if you have paid the tax, you have not disclosed it, it will allow you to file the return. Subsequently, it will give you the notice saying that there's a demand amounting rupees this. Now it is asking me to confirm. If I'll confirm and accordingly, then I'll have to file my return. But as this number relates to my friends, so obviously I'll have to delete all these numbers. So I'm not filing the return as of now. So that is the whole concept, guys. This is how your return gets prepared. And once you are done with the tax paid thing, then the total tax liability is there. Just you have to confirm. After confirming, simply move on and nothing needs to be, you're done. Okay, just proceed. Then you have to e-verify your return. Nothing very, very difficult over there. So I'll show after filing the return, you have basically the option to access that return in the view filed returns. So like over here, you can see the previous return of mine which I filed. It is saying that that I have filed my return on 30th of June under section 139(1), and the refund was issued to me on December 2020, and accordingly I have received the amount in my bank account also. So that is the thing. So what happens, I can see over here. So after filing of your return, that return will flow over here. Okay, like assessment year 19, 20, 2021, 21, 22 will flow over here. Now you have an option to subsequently e-verify that return. Filing of return is not the completion of filing of return. Basically, all the compliances, you have to verify the return also. That is very crucial. So whenever you will file the return, that will get auto-populated over here, and it will ask you to e-verify. So from e-verify perspective, what will happen if I go over here, income tax return, e-verify returns, when I'll click over here, so this will give you the detail over here. It is saying that please select that return you would like to e-verify. As of now, I don't have any return which is pending for e-verification. So you guys can simply put your acknowledgement number over here. After putting acknowledgement number, you'll be moved to the next screen where you have to select the method for return verification. As I told you, one of the method is Aadhaar based authentication. The other method is net banking authentication. So those steps you can basically select, and you can verify your return. Once it will be verified, this is how it will once it will be verified, your acknowledgement will come. Okay, so when this download receipt is something, this is ITRV. Okay, this is something basically comes up only when you verify your return. Okay guys, so that is the thing. And yeah, you can get your acknowledgement number from here for verifying the e-returns. This is the whole process of ITR filing.